Welcome to the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Lace up those boots and sling on the pack for a romp through trails, short and long. With your host and Renaissance man, Doc. It's time to embrace the suck.
Welcome back to another week on the trail. I'm Doc, and this is the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Let's start off with a reminder. If you are enjoying the podcast, take just a minute and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're not enjoying the podcast, well, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. All right, let's get to this week's guest. Today, we are talking to peak bagger and self-described world-class wise ass, Spencer Morrissey. He hails from the Adirondacks, and besides being a wise ass, is a writer, blogger, and explorer. Welcome to the pod, Spencer.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
So in your time peak bagging, have you picked up a trail name?
Actually, oddly enough, Peak Bagger was my first trail name. Didn't really last long. A couple of my friends have called me the groundhog, the hedgehog, different things like that. I don't really know where they came from, but I definitely get some interesting names, but nothing that's really stuck.
Okay, so for the sake of today's episode, it is just Spencer then?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. I was looking forward to Hedgehog. That'd have been a good
well,
one.
You can tell me that if you want. I mean, that's cool. I mean, everybody get a laugh out of that for sure.
All right, I'm going with Hedgehog just because I really like that. Okay.
Sweet. All right.
Hedgehog. And do you have like characteristics of a hedgehog, or how did that even pop up?
I don't know. It started out a hedgehog and then it kind of like morphed into like woodchuck because I like to spend my time in the woods. So, I mean, you can go with woodchuck or hedgehog, however you want to do it. But yeah, it just morphed into the fact that it always seems like I'm picking wood out of my teeth because I'm going in the woods so much. So I think that's where woodchuck came from.
Very good. And if I need to shorten the name, would you prefer hedge or hog?
Well, it's probably better than Woody. But yeah, you can go for it, man. You make it up as you go.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Hey, Hedgehog, have you listened to the podcast before?
I have a couple times. Yep.
Okay. Very good. So you know that we have a regular segment towards the end of the episode called the Pro Tip Inside of the Week. And that's when I will turn to you and say, hey, Hedgehog, what is your pro tip for this week? What little insight, piece of wisdom, trick can you share with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better? So don't be surprised when we get there.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Hey, another feature we've been doing this season is the must bring gear review. And here's how it works. If you were to let a stranger pack your bag with pretty much generic gear for a multi-day hike, what is the one specific piece of gear you would insist on being packed? And if you've got a particular brand for that specific piece of gear, even better. So Hedgehog, what is your must bring piece of gear? And I'm not sure, have you done any multi-day hikes?
I have done a few. Yep.
Okay. Very good.
Yep. I'm doing more and more often, I guess. This year I plan to do many more, but I don't really spend much time on trails. So I guess I'd have to say my one go-to piece is going to have to be my Garmin 66, my GPS. Mm-hmm. Unlike, certain areas like the picture in your background there, not a lot of trees, but over here it's just packed with trees, so it's a lot easier to have a GPS to find my way rather than, map and compass, which does take a long time.
Right.
So,
and the Garmin 66, is that an entry level or is that has some bells and whistles on it?
Yeah, it's a little more advanced. I don't use a lot of the stuff that's in there. But I like it because it's super accurate and the dense forest up here, it allows me to basically go where I need to and get back safely, and it just keeps the satellites nicely so that I don't have to worry about it glitching on me. Mm-hmm. So it is a more advanced, a little bit more of an advanced newer model.
Okay, is that a watch or is it a communication device?
Yeah, it's a handheld.
Handheld, got it.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. We've heard about the and talked about the Garmin InReach, and so is the 66 a step up from that?
I wouldn't say it's a step up. The inReach is used quite a lot up here. It's a very accurate one as well. I've had good luck with similar models to this 66. I started with the 60 and went to the 62, 64, 66. So I just stuck with something I knew, rather than going with a satellite beacon like inReach that I don't feel that I really needed.
Okay, so you probably go with the 68, the 70, and the 72 when they come out. Well,
Probably, as long as my knees hold up.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Hey, let's back up a little bit and talk about your background. Where did you grow up? What kinds of hobbies and sports were you involved with? And how did you get involved with the outdoor adventure life?
Grew up in Long Lake, which isn't that far from where I am now in Jay. Went to a really small school, graduated with 8 kids. Central school, believe it or not, not a Catholic school or anything small, but just a regular central school, small town. Started hiking probably back when I was around 19, with my dad, working on the bigger peaks of the Adirondacks, and slowly started getting bored with walking on trails, and decided I wanted to jump off into the woods and see what was out there, that, what I can find, and found quite a bit of cool stuff. It's pretty amazing what you can find when you get off the trails. It started out not with a GPS, started out with more of a just map and compass, and sometimes just the map, and just went exploring and spent all day in the woods, and came back out, got my feet wet a little bit more, and eventually I started going further and further and further out, and and now it's just like second nature. And eventually it became a guide, did some outdoor writing, and haven't really stopped from there.
Okay. So did I hear you right? You started off kind of going on hikes with your dad, and was
Yeah.
it backpacking trips?
No, it's just day trips, basically.
Day
He
trips?
was, yep. I got started a little older. He was a little older, so ended up being a lot of day trips, up up what they call 46 high peaks, which are all the peaks that are over 4,000 feet, which, a lot of people out west and, Colorado and stuff laugh at the 4,000 foot, because they're so much smaller than what you got out there. But I'll tell you, they're just as rugged, and people have told me that they're just as hard, if not harder.
Yeah, now we've talked to a lot of long trail hikers and through hikers, and a lot of the stories, come from the trail. They're on the trail. They go from this point on the trail to that point on the trail. And with the peak baggers, you guys go off trail. You may start on a trail, but at some point you turn off the trail and you're climbing up these peaks. And so how did that whole experience start from you, from being on the trail to saying, hey, let's kind of expand into peak bagging and going off the trail in a little more rugged path?
Well, I was gifted a pretty good sized map set, and I started looking at all the maps and comparing them to the trails, and there was all these peaks with no trails up them that nobody's ever. I'm sure they've explored them, but nobody talks about them, and I really wanted to see what was there. So I basically one day just said, you know what, that one's only half a mile off the trail. Let's go up and come back down. You're not going to get lost. Let's just see what's up there. And sure enough, it was spectacular. I mean, the views were amazing. Come back down, right back on the trail, walk back out, a little bit further the next time, a little bit further the next time. It just became an addiction. And then my map addiction just became worse and worse. And, I'm getting treatment, but it's not working. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a common trait, is this addictive personality, this obsessive personality with through hikers and climbers and peak baggers. They get hooked, and it's, say goodbye to normalcy.
Every sport has them.
Yeah.
Yep. And I don't foresee it ever changing. So.
Right. Now, when you climb, do you climb with gear, or is it just, what is the I guess the grade of your climbing?
I use it climbing, but I guess really climbing isn't the correct word. There's some mountaineering involved in some of it if you do them in the winter. We get some pretty harsh winters up here, so you're talking minimal mountaineering gear in the winter, crampons, ice axe. But when I talk about climbing, I mean I'm talking about going from low elevation to high elevation, which just might simply just be hiking in the woods. But I just call it climbing because essentially that's what I'm doing. I'm just not, going vertical. So
Right. Yeah. There's all kinds of climbing. There's the Alex Honnold climbing, and then there's other
yeah,
ways.
you're not going to catch me doing that.
Never spent the night on a portaledge.
Nope, nope, don't plan on it.
Smart man. Very
Yeah,
smart. Have you had any training in climbing or mountaineering?
a little bit. I mean, I've done stuff like Rainier. So I've had a little bit of glacier climbing out west, but not much. I've done a little bit of ice climbing here. Done a little bit of bouldering, but it never really caught my interest as much as as climbing to a summit and getting that satisfaction and feeling of accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned the 46 high peaks. Are those the 46 4,000 footers in the Adirondacks?
Yeah, they 46 that are 4,000 feet and above.
Okay.
Mount Morrissey that being the highest at 50, 52. And yeah, it started out as everybody kind of starts out doing the 46 high peaks. It's a climbing challenge. You get a passion, all that, and everybody gets hooked into that. And for me, it just went further. It went into climbing the 100 highest peaks in the Adirondacks to, the next 100 to the next 100, and it just keeps going and going. And now I don't even care if it's on a list. I don't care how high it is. I just climb to the high point of whatever mountain I want to go to and call it good.
And so you're currently in the Adirondacks. You live in that area.
Yeah.
Where are you, on the edge? Are you right in the middle? I mean, how geographically, where are you exactly?
I'm about 30 minutes from Vermont, so I'm on the eastern edge of the Adirondacks. So I'm pretty much right in the High Peaks region, eastern Adirondacks. I work right in the High Peaks region, so I've pretty much got mountain views out my yard, so which is nice. So it pretty centralized to wherever I want to go, and the park is 6 million acres, so I mean it's out. So there's a lot to explore.
Okay. And how many Adirondack summits are there?
Named ones, there's probably around 1,600. I think I tallied up somewhere around there, but doesn't even matter to me if they have a name now at this point. I just go to explore the stuff that's I call it named and notable peaks, and my goal is to top out on at least 2,500 different ones. So.
And where are you in that adventure? How many have you done so far?
1,750. 15, sorry, 1,715.
Wow. And how long has this adventure taken you?
Quite a few years. I've went on a streak of just taking a break from getting smacked in the face by tree branches, so I took a little hiatus there. So there's a few years that I didn't, do as many, but I typically get around 100 to 200 peaks a year. So, if I have an off year, it's like 50 peaks for a year. So, pretty much that's my go-to for my days off, and all my friends enjoy it. My wife enjoys it. My dog, so it's pretty much it's what we do.
I was going to ask if there was a Mrs. Hedgehog and what she thought of this experience.
She loves it. Yeah, we both have a blast with it. We both have our moments of what I call, we hit our tree quota for the day, which means we've fought our way through enough trees for the day, and we both get on the grumpy side sometimes, but then everything is always better when you're out. It's always a good story. So
right now, just doing some simple math here, if you did 200 summits in a year,
yeah,
there's only 52 weekends. So how does that work?
Multiple peaks in a day, or sometimes I'll go twice a week. Sometimes I go before work. I'll go on a short one before work of 8-10 miles before work, and then go to work for the day, and and try to stay awake, I guess. It's tough when you work in an office, but yeah, I try to go as much as I can, You know, like I said, I live pretty close to a lot of peaks, so it's pretty easy to just get out and go explore something new.
Right. And what do you do to pay the bills?
Well, I sell pictures of myself. You know, like I'm doing right now. I expect a check in the mail anytime. But no, I'm an emergency dispatcher for the Forest Rangers.
Oh,
So
okay.
so basically, I sit on the other end of the line when a emergency call comes in for hikers or climbers or something, and they're lost or distressed or something along that line, and kind of help coordinate the rescue efforts.
Any exciting dispatch stories?
Um, there's a million of them. You know, obviously it's one of those things that I'm not allowed to talk about. But you know, there's some there was you know, last year lady lost on Allen Mountain for 3 days in the winter. She was found in good condition. She huddled underneath a rock. We had two young kids a couple years ago who were lost on Algonquin. They got into a whiteout, ended up spending 2 nights basically huddled in a tree well, and they ended up getting a helicopter rescue, which I highly recommend you check that helicopter rescue out on YouTube. It's pretty badass. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's just, you know, simple stuff that people are going out without the right gear. Going back to the first question, you know, what's that one piece of gear you always need? Like, you'd think it'd be a headlamp or something like that, but the amount of people that don't think it gets dark, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
You know, not water, stuff like that. You know, a lot of them are pretty simple, but you know, sometimes you get some pretty big stuff. Probably the biggest rescue I was part of was a 36-hour rescue in the High Peaks region. A guy who broke his leg on one of the peaks. Worst winter conditions you could even imagine, and it was a 36-hour rescue.
Right. Have you ever read The Last Season by Eric Blem?
I have not.
So it is the story of a backcountry ranger who has close to 30 years experience in the Sierras, in Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. And he's assisted on, you know, many rescues. He's found a lot of people. And then one year, 1996, he goes missing. And so the book is an incredible book, and it details the search for Randy Morganson and what happened to him. So really good read. And just from, you know, the things that you're describing, I think it'd be right up your alley.
Yeah, I've always said that, do not come and rescue me. I do not want to be part of the rescue reports. It's like, if I'm not home the next day, wait another day. You know, I'll make it out of the woods. So
Is that your pro tip already?
no, I don't recommend that.
Okay. All right. Hey, you mentioned that you're a writer as well. So what kinds of stuff have you written?
Well, I wrote a lot of them are trail guides. Well, I guess you really can't. Some of them are trail guides. One of them is a backcountry ski book, Adirondack Trail skier. Another one, Adirondack Trail runner. I was into trail running for quite a long time. Decided to not do that and focus more on climbing the peaks than running, you know, running trails. And did a photography book for, you know, somebody asked me to do a photography book because I was into that. And another one, the one that's my, I don't know, I guess you can quote unquote claim to fame, is called The Other 54, which is the book on the Adirondack 100 highest. That's in 3rd edition right now.
The Other 54. So there's 46 high peaks over 4,000 feet.
Yep.
And the other 54 are the ones that didn't hit 4,000, but are make up the top 100.
Right, exactly.
Got it.
Yep. And a lot of those are bushwhacks.
Say that again. Sorry.
A lot of those don't have trails. Most of them don't have trails. So
that's where you encounter your fill of trees.
Oh boy, you could say that for sure. It's thick. Just imagine walking through Walmart on Black Friday and multiplying that by 10.
Nice. So you used to be a trail runner, and what made you focus on peaks instead of trail running? Because that is a popular pastime across the country, trail running. I've talked to a number of folks who really, really love that.
Yeah, I did it more for just recreational purposes. I got into a couple small like 5Ks and stuff like that, and I'm by no means built for it. I've just I don't know. My body was just starting to feel the aches and pains of the pounding, and a couple pretty good headers coming down hills that just it was like it just I'm gonna save my body. I'm not getting any younger. So I'm gonna keep going as much as I can and just do it a little slower.
Right. There's a whole range of a whole spectrum of trail races, right? There's the
Yeah.
5Ks that you've talked about. I've talked to Gabe and Kevin, who did the Moab 240, which is a 240-mile trail race. And
Yeah.
then there's, I think, even a notch higher than that, probably the toughest race on the planet, the Barkley Marathons.
I couldn't even fathom. No, I think the most I've run is 10 miles, and that was pretty painful by the end. Yeah, so although I would love to run through Moab. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Have you heard about the Barkley Marathons?
I've heard of them. I don't know much about them, but I have heard of them.
Okay, so in addition to the last season, I expect you to be writing all this down as I'm telling you this, because this is good stuff.
Okay.
Last season by Eric Blem, and then you have to check out these 2 YouTube documentaries on the Barkley Marathons, and the titles will give you some insight into what type of race this is. So the first title is called "The Barkley Marathons: The Race That Eats Its Young," and the second documentary is the story of Gary Robbins in his quest to complete the Barkley Marathons, called "Where Dreams Go to Die."
Oh man.
And so watching those 2, that is time well spent. It is incredible. It's basically a race in the wilderness on a single loop that is anywhere between 20 and 30 miles long. Nobody really knows. And you have to do it 5 times. And there's all kinds of little quirks and details surrounding this race. It's probably one of the most coveted races to get into. It's one of the hardest races to get into, and just a really, really quirky deal, and just devastatingly hard. It's been in existence for 30 years, and there's only been 15 finishers of 5 complete loops, because you have a 60-hour time limit.
Oh, okay. 60 hours. That's not much time.
Yeah, you have to do it. 12 hours each loop. And because of that, you're doing the loop during the daytime, during the nighttime, and the race organizer, he switches directions on you too. So you may go, do a loop in the day clockwise, and then you have to go out in the night and go counterclockwise. So basically it's a whole new course, and now it's in the dark. So it is.
There's no trail? It's just in the wilderness?
Just in the wilderness. And there are waypoints and markers that you have to get to and bring back proof that you were there.
That's intense.
Yeah.
And
I've talked to a few people who have been competitors in the Barkley Marathons. I'm kind of obsessed with the topic, as you could probably tell. But, some of these competitors were world-class athletes, world-class trail runners. I mean, just doing incredible things. And the ones that I've talked to, not a one of them is finished. So that kind of gives you some insight into how difficult it is.
Sure. You said 15 finishers in the last 30 years or something like that?
That's correct.
Wow. That's amazing.
All right. But we digress. Sorry. Little
that's all right.
There. That's good stuff, though.
Cool. Yeah, it is.
All right. So how about outside of the Adirondacks? Any other experiences in peaks around the U.S. or around the world?
Yeah, I'm a high pointer, so I like to visit the high points of every state and do a few mountains in each state as I'm going through. If they have them. As you can imagine, some of them don't really have much. But I've visited 39 of the 50 high points. Plan to go back. I'm planning to go to Death Valley this year to do a bunch, check some stuff out. South side of the country, unfortunately, I'm still pretty green. did visit family in South Korea that were stationed there, so we climbed a half a dozen peaks in South Korea, which was pretty cool. That was a different experience for sure. If you think the mountains are busy over here, it's 5-10 fold over there.
Seriously.
Yeah, the hiking over there is like a serious pastime. I was really surprised. I mean, literally waiting in line to go up the mountain. It was weird. It was like the Everest step on every mountain. It was crazy. So I mean, it very enjoyable, a very good experience. But was definitely glad to be back here where there's much fewer people. So
That's right. Well, one of the reasons we get out there, out into the woods and onto top of peaks, is to avoid the crowds.
yes,
And so, yeah, crowded hiking venues, that's something else. Now, you said 39 of 50. Have you made it out to Whitney yet?
I have not made it out to Whitney. That is next year is either I'm going to go back to Rainier and bring my wife to Rainier, or Whitney. We've also tossed around Whitney and Hood. So she's at 25, so I've kind of started over. So picking a couple of mine here and a couple of hers there, that kind of stuff. So Whitney's on the short list.
Okay. Now, Whitney's not that far away from Death Valley, so could you combine the two?
Yeah, we just didn't have enough time.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't like to visit someplace and just go and leave. I like to spend some time there and just kind of breathe the whole thing in and do a few mountains and go to the neighboring towns and try the local foods and the breweries and wineries and stuff. To make it a whole trip, not just to go out and bag a peak and leave. I'm not one of the typical. I say typical, but peak bagger has been one of those derogatory terms where it's just people that just like to go touch the top and leave. And I like to become one with the mountain and just be up there and know that I'm part of a much bigger thing.
Now, you mentioned wine or beer. So what's the go-to beverage on top of the mountain?
Beer.
And do you have a special, a particular type of beer?
No, I actually, so in the wintertime, it's typically like a dark beer, like a stout or something like that.
Okay.
When it's hot out and stuff, it's definitely like an IPA or a pale ale or something. But I don't really have any specific beer that I like the most. I love microbrews. I love supporting microbrews, and up here we have a lot. There's like 450 microbreweries in New York State, so we've got a lot to choose from.
You're an equal opportunity beer drinker.
Exactly. Support the locals.
Very good. I'm an IPA guy. The stouts, I just don't know. I don't know about stouts, but
they're good when it's cold.
Okay. Very good.
When it's hot.
And you know what? I've decided that you have to be Hedgehog because I got down in my notes here, Hedgehog the high pointer. It just rolls off the tongue. So
yep, it does. Yep, there we go.
Yep.
We're gonna live it down.
All right. Very good. So you've got some goals. You've got you want to summit all 25 or 2,500 of the Adirondacks.
Yeah.
You want to hit 5,000 summits worldwide.
Worldwide, before I can't do it anymore yet, that would be like the ultimate goal. Is that going to happen? It's a goal. I'll hit 2,000 this year, overall peaks, throughout the country.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a doable goal. I think it's a doable goal.
Okay. And all 50 high points in the U.S. Is that a third goal?
Yeah, that's I would love to get up to to Alaska and get Denali, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's not my overall goal. I mean, it's definitely high on my list, but there's so much cool stuff out there that to just focus on one thing is it's tough. I love to go to Vermont and hike in the Green Mountains. I love to go to New Hampshire. Appalachian Mountains, the White Mountains, Maine, and the Northeast. I just love it. They're tough peaks, and they've got a lot to offer.
Okay, let's take the Adirondacks out of the equation. What's your favorite set of mountains to hike? other than the Adirondacks?
Other than the Adirondacks? Oh boy. I can tell you what my favorite state was to hike in at this point. It's
Okay.
Utah, for sure. Utah was a blast. I mean, there's so much. I mean, we went down for 2 weeks, and we only just dusted the area. I mean, there's so much to do down there. The people were fantastic. It had a really amazing vibe. Everybody was in a good mood. Everybody was like living off each other's adventures. It was just, you go to the bar and you just sit down, you start talking to somebody that you didn't think you'd have anything in common with, but yet, you do. Yeah, and it's just like, that's the climbing world and the hiking world. It's like everybody's got something in common, which is great. And to feed off that vibe of one another is so refreshing, and especially in like times of now, that are things that are going on. It's nice to know that's still out there.
Yeah.
And you can go to the country and find it.
And where is the best climbing in Utah?
We had actually, when I said Moab, we really loved that area down there. Like I said, we didn't spend a lot of time in a lot of places, but then I really feel the Uintas were fantastic. The peaks around Salt Lake City, which I'm flaking on the mountain range near Salt Lake City, but that areas are just fantastic. And probably I would say the Uintas were the most impressive for me.
Yeah, we've heard about the Uintas a couple times on the podcast, and they sound incredible. It sounds very similar to the Sierras.
Yeah, that's actually what they're compared to generally, from what I understand. I have not been in the Sierras yet.
Oh, boy, just you wait.
Yeah,
There are a whole batch of peaks to climb in the Sierras.
Oh yeah, I know. My mouth's been watering for a while.
You remind me a little bit of the story of Norman Clyde, who was a principal in Independence, California, which is a town on the outskirts of the Eastern Sierras. And he would live for the weekends. He would, do his job Monday through Friday, and then he would escape into the Sierras every weekend. And until he ran into a little bit of trouble with the town and some students, and he eventually, long story short, got fired from his job as principal. And then he became a full-time wanderer in the Sierras and did all kinds of first ascents and mountain rescues, and just quite the hiking and climbing resume. But like you, lived on, adjacent to or right in mountain range, and just all kinds of climbing. That's what he lived for. So
yeah, he was like one of the first dirtbags.
That's right. You're familiar with Norman Clyde.
Oh yeah. There's a really good documentary on him, which was fantastic. I'm sure it was. It's been a while now since I've seen it, but yeah, I'm very familiar with him. That whole dirtbag thing just has a lure,
Yes. Yep. Very good. And speaking of Utah, the friend of the podcast, Ginger Balls, Triple Crowner, he is currently in Utah on the Hayduke Trail. Have you heard about the Hayduke Trail?
Hayduke Trail. I have heard of the Hayduke Trail. I don't know why I've heard of it. Have to refresh me on that one.
Yeah, it's an insane trail that goes through all 5 national parks in Utah. And to call it a trail, I guess in some cases, is, you have to put trail in air quotes, because there's not a whole lot of trail. You have to do a lot of navigating yourself and saying, okay, I've got to get to this point. How do I get there? And there's a documentary on, I'm not sure if it's YouTube or Amazon, called Figuring It Out on the Hayduke Trail, that kind of gives you some insight into that. But Ginger Balls had done the Triple Crown and had wanted to do the Hayduke, and he's posting some stuff on Instagram these days from his current trip, and he says it's pretty brutal. But
nice.
Yeah, he's loving it. He slept in a cave. He slept in a cave last night.
Oh, well, that's rough. Yeah. If I sleep in a cave up here, it's because I don't know where I am. So, not a lot of caves up here, though.
Yeah. How about bears? Are there bears in those caves?
black bears, and some of them probably, but
Yeah.
you know, they're just big old pussy cats.
Okay. Like big
Yeah.
raccoons, huh?
Basically, yeah. They're afraid of us more than we are of them. Well, you know, I've grown up around them. I mean, living where I live, they're everywhere, you know, so it's not a big deal.
Hedgehog, the high pointer, is not afraid of bears.
Nope,
Okay.
not at all.
All right. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into some of Hedgehog's stories from his various outings around the country and the world. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are talking to world-class wise ass and high pointer Hedgehog about his adventures around the country and beyond. And I thought we'd devote this segment to some of your stories that you alluded to when you and I were kind of messaging back and forth in preparation for this episode. And I have to tell you that from the titles of some of these stories, I can't wait to hear about them. So let's
justice.
let's start off with let's go back to South Korea. You have
Sure.
any stories from your time on the crowded trails in South Korea?
South Korea is just like I said, it was an amazing place. Everybody was, you know, they're super friendly, and at times I'll shave my head, you know, much shorter, and when I get to the point where I get really hot and everything else is so cool around me, the steam will just roll off my head like, you know, like a teapot, and I'm climbing up the mountain, and all the Koreans that are on the trail they're pointing and laughing at me, and I can't figure out for the life of me what's going on. Maybe it's because I'm really tall. I'm the only guy in the whole country with a beard. I mean, I don't know what it is, you know. And eventually, I finally realized somebody actually, you know, was speaking English, and they'd tell me about how my head was steaming and my body was just steaming like I was on fire. But they're super friendly about it, and it's just such a great experience going there. I aside from being so busy, it really is a good top-notch place to just, I guess, dive into the I don't know how to put it, but the way of life over there. Tourism over there is huge. We flew down from the mainland down to the high point, and that was one of the busiest places I've ever been. 300 people on the summit of the high point. There's a staircase most all the way up it for a solid over 3 miles, and it's totally different than it is over here, where we have mud and rocks and roots to hike over, and over there it's pretty laid out. They take care of their trails really well. I guess one of my favorite things about South Korea was when we were over on Jeju Island, is going down to the coast, and there's these women that will go out and dive every day for fresh seafood and bring it back up on the rocks on the beach and serve it to you literally within minutes of catching it. So it's raw seafood. They chop it up with all their special stuff, and you sit down there with this platter of food right on the beach of the freshest seafood you'll ever have. Some of it good, some of it maybe not quite so appetizing, but the experience is 90% of it, and it's such a cool experience for sure. I would go back in a heartbeat.
Nice. Now, I would have thought that you were leading up to a possible trail name from the steam coming off your head and your body. What are some possible trail names that we could gather from that?
Boy, I don't know.
Hothead?
Yeah, I've been called that before. That's nothing new. Oh man, I don't know. I bet there's got to be something out there.
McSteamy?
Yeah. Steamy?
McSteamy. McSteamy.
Oh, there we go. I'm going to change my name.
McSteamy. Yeah. That's kind of like isn't that Grey's Anatomy, I think, reference there.
Oh yeah, he's got nothing on me.
All right. Hey, this is
McLovin, right? From
that's right. McLovin, McSteamy, McDreamy. Okay. Very good. It's a good segue. Good segue to our next story, which is river nudist outing. What in the world is that all about?
So there's a lot of river swimming and stuff up here, and there's one area that, to my knowledge now, that nudists like to go on. But when I was, I don't know, I think I was 19 or 20, hiking with my dad, we had no idea. So we're coming down along the trail, coming off one of the high peaks, and we hear all this ruckus and stuff over in the river. So, the trail goes right by the river, and we look over there, and then there's 8 or 10 not so attractive nudists just hanging around in the water, going down the rock slide, and it was one of those things where I'm like, I'm covering my eyes, I'm like, I'm embarrassed, and thinking to myself, I hope they don't see us, and they don't care. Here goes my dad. He walks over, basically starts up a conversation with the first person he sees, like he doesn't even care, like he doesn't even, like, it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's like he's just one of those guys that, I can hopefully I can be like that, to the point where I can just walk over, just talk to somebody like that. But it's like, I'm thinking to myself, can I get you a towel? He's over there having a full-on conversation, Is
that just the kind of guy he was? I mean, just
yeah, pretty much, yeah. He didn't care as long as he could get a good conversation out of it. He would talk to anybody, and that really that was that's like one of the stories I remember the most about my first few years of hiking is running into that group.
So you ran into them more than once, or?
Knowing that they're there, when you go back hiking in that area, it's a pretty good possibility somebody's gonna be there.
So you just kept going back to that area. Is what I'm hearing.
Oh yeah, all the time, yeah.
And isn't that the truth?
I never joined in.
Isn't that the truth about nudist beaches or nudist areas? It's the really it's not what you expect. It's the not most attractive people.
We don't have them up here, so it was really surprising. It's not like it's Florida and it's warm. Right? These are 55-degree rivers. I guess there's not much to see when it's 55 degrees and you're jumping in the river,
but this has turned into a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh my God.
All right.
So yeah, that was definitely an interesting day.
Okay. Hey, how about let's see. This next one says Nevada flat tire.
So road trips are, like I was saying, high pointing road trips have been something I've done, and we went on 2 back-to-back. Albuquerque flat tire, middle of nowhere. No story behind that one. And then Nevada's flat tire was just an absolute nightmare. Nevada high point, we fly into Vegas, drive up toward the high point. It's getting dark. We're having a hard time figuring out where this is. We get lost a couple times. There's no cell phone coverage. And all of a sudden, the low tire pressure light comes on the rental. I'm like, this is just got nightmare written all over it. So drive a little bit further, and I get out and I check the tire, and it's definitely getting a slow leak. So we decided to just camp for the night, and we just basically pulled over on the side of the road, this dirt road, put up our tent in the prickers and in the sagebrush, and just said, I'll change the tire in the morning when I can see. Get up in the morning, sure enough, flat as a pancake. Not going anywhere. No cell phone coverage. Think to myself, God, I hope there's a spare worthy in this thing.
Wait a second. You didn't check and see if there was a spare the night before?
No, I didn't. No,
just said forget it. I'm going to sleep. We'll take care of this in the morning.
Yep. Didn't check.
It wouldn't have made any difference, right? I mean, what could you have done the night before if there was no spare, right?
That's true. I probably just wouldn't have slept. I probably would have been pissed all night. I probably should check to see if there's a spare before I take it out of the yard. But live and let learn, right? Yeah, so get up the next morning, cook breakfast, go over. There's a spare. It's one of those 50-mile clunkers, and I'm at least 300 miles from, trading this car back in. Um, so going to change the tire. It's one of those little rinky-dink jacks that can barely lift a motorcycle. Finally get the thing up, and I couldn't get the tire off. It was basically welded with rust to, and I just at this point I was beyond any kind of self-control in my brain, and I'm thinking to myself, how the hell am I going to get this off? Because we can't walk 30 miles back to the nearest town. Well, we could, but I don't want to. And so I go where I find the biggest rock I can find, and I'm just banging this tire as hard as I can. And I know I'm wrecking this rim. And I'm thinking to myself, these guys are going to be pissed. They're going to pay for the rim, and eventually the thing finally pops off, and I get the thing. I get going. Yeah, we got the little 50-mile tire on, and I said, you know what, I'm not going back now. We're gonna go over here and we're gonna climb. We're gonna hike and get this off my mind. We're gonna relax, be in the woods. And so we drove another 10 miles on this dirt road of disaster, and finally got there. And I'm thinking, I'm driving like 5 miles an hour and just hoping to God I don't get another flat tire, because I'm screwed and I'm going in the wrong direction. But yeah, that was white knuckle driving for 300 miles back to where we could get another car. It was crazy.
On a 50-mile tire, how did the tire look when you after the 300 miles?
There wasn't much left of that tire, man. I've never seen one of those tires worn down so much, because it's a lot of throughway driving too. So you got what, 70 mile, 80 mile an hour speed limits on those throughways, and I'm driving like Aunt Jane going down there at 50 miles an hour. It's like, what am I gonna do? My flasher's on for 4 hours while I'm driving back down to Nevada or down to Las Vegas to get a new car. But yeah, so lesson you learn: always check to make sure you got a spare, and expect the worst to happen, and just deal with it, I guess. But man, that was frustrating.
Now you said we a couple of times. Who was with you on that trip?
Nah, my wife always goes on the trips. We're always high pointing together. So she's always the calm one, usually the calm one of the group. So so the whole world doesn't implode, something like this goes wrong. So she kept me a little more calm.
I was going to ask if she had any sage advice for you during that whole episode.
Yeah, good pun. Sage advice. Yeah, nice. The sage did smell good, I'll tell you.
Very good. I love the sequence of that story, because you had the flat tire, you pull over,
yep.
You set up camp, you go to sleep. You don't even look at anything else. You're just setting up the tent, going to sleep, and the next morning you get up and you make breakfast first, and then you check on the tire and if you have a spare or not. So that's the way to do it.
I always do better on good night's sleep and some food. So it definitely. I mean, if I tried it an hour ago or 2 hours before that, it wouldn't have made any difference. So
that's right. Very good. All right. Hey, let's go to Virginia, and I see red lights in Virginia as the next story topic.
It's just we got lost in Virginia when we were high pointing. This was a long time ago, before I met my wife, and I went down with a friend, and we're driving. We did like 10 high points on this trip. We went all the way down the East Coast and then back up. And for some reason, I was super tired, but in Virginia, I ran the same stop sign 3 times. We just kept going in circles, and I ran the stop sign, and I was arguing with him. I was like, there was no stop sign there, and second time we're driving back around trying to find a hotel, and I ran the same one again, and I ran it 3 times apparently. I'm still not 100% sure I believe them, but they keep telling me I ran the same stop sign 3 times. So yeah, not very anecdotal story, but kind of one of those things where when you're tired, your mind just kind of goes in different directions.
I thought this story was going to go in a whole different direction.
Not the red light district. No, nothing good like that. I should have went to eat something up though, man.
Well, it does say red light, and so you're saying stop sign. So I didn't expect
Stop
stop sign to be
sign.
part of
Yeah,
the
stop sign.
part of the story.
Yeah, no.
And I wasn't thinking red light district either. I was thinking like lights in the sky type of stuff out in Virginia.
Oh, well, that would make sense in Virginia. I thought that was more along, like, was that Arizona?
True.
No, yeah, yeah, no, and nothing crazy like that. But now you got me thinking I should have made something up. Red light district in Virginia.
Yeah, if you've got a story titled "Red Lights in Virginia," it can't be about stop signs. So
No, it'd be more like banjos. Isn't that Virginia, right? Is that Virginia?
sure, I'll go with that.
Okay, great.
Yep, very good. Okay, what is a spruce trap?
Like on the West Coast, I guess you guys call them tree wells, where the snow gets trapped on top of the tree branches and leaves these hollows underneath, and some skiers will ski into them head first and can't get out.
Never get out. That's right. Yeah.
Never get out. Up here they're called spruce traps because they're always on spruce trees or balsam trees or something along that line. And up here we've got some doozies. I mean, they're not, the 10, 12, 15 footers like you have, but they're definitely over your head. And I'm a bigger guy, 225, 230, 6'2", and if I can get buried in a spruce trap, they're damn big. And I'm always prone to them because I'm way more than most everybody I hike with, and I honestly just need to recruit bigger hiking partners and send them first. But I just haven't been able to do it. But I've been in a couple where you fall through and you basically get to walk in a circle around the tree until you eventually spiral out of it. And I've had some that are just about the size of, you can probably see them from the space shuttle. They're just so big.
Is that how you do it? Is that how you get out? You walk in a circle around the tree until you spiral up and out?
That sometimes I've had to do that. Yeah, it's like it works. You stamp the snow down as you work your way up, and eventually you can just hoist yourself out. That's how I do it. Other people try to get their snowshoes off and climb out, but they're exhausting. They're absolutely exhausting. We got hiking over in the Green Mountains. Oh boy, it's probably 10 years ago now. We did lose the trail. I ended up coming down the side of the mountain. We had this idea that we were here, but we actually weren't there. We were over here, and we ended up bushwhacking for 5 or 10 miles in the dark. And I lost count at about 30 spruce traps for me coming down off of that mountain. It was the most exhausting time of my life. And then we ended up popping out on the road 5 miles from the car, which was daunting in itself. The fact of having to walk 5 miles of pavement in winter boots was not pleasing at all. So it was spruce traps are my nemesis for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Watch out for those spruce traps. All right. And then what happened in 2020 with was it your health or your
my health? Yeah.
Your health? Okay.
Yeah. So I basically had undiagnosed something was going on with my joints, where it was basically stopping me from doing any major hiking or mountain climbing. And tested by, I had 30 or more vials of blood pulled from me, and tests and x-rays and CAT scans and just a large amount of stuff done just to try to figure out what this is. And everything's pointing back to arthritis and stuff, but yet it's not arthritis, it's not this. I'm thinking to myself, my hiking career over, am I stuck, am I screwed? I barely got any peaks in this, and fighting to just climb 2,000 feet of elevation was the next day was just misery, and that night was just unbearable in bed, and eventually I just on a whim just decided, I'm just gonna take Claritin see if it's an allergy to something. And now, it's like all of a sudden I'm almost like back to square one, and I'm fine. But it did have some little lasting effects. So I'm not quite as fast as I was, but ended up being probably just some random allergy to something, and they don't know what. So it's just like one of those weird, another way of 2020 to kick your ass, I was tested for COVID. I was treated for COVID. I was treated for Lyme. I was treated for everything under the sun that would be possible joint issues. And it was just one failure after another, after another, after another.
So how many doctor visits and how many medical bills did you rack up trying to figure out what this was? And then you just said to yourself, I'm going to take some Claritin, see if that helps. And you figured it out.
Yeah, it didn't. Luckily, I've got really good insurance, so there wasn't much for doctor bills, but 30, 40 doctor visits.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was getting to the point where it was unbearable. It was like, I can't even, a couple times I had a hard time getting out of bed and walking down the stairs, so it came on just like that. It wasn't like it was one of these slow progressive things. And so hopefully it's all behind me now at this point. Just some stupid easy fix that we could have started with, which was kind of upsetting. So,
yeah, knock on wood, Hedgehog. Knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What other stories do you have for us?
Oh man. I guess everybody's got one of those I've been overweight stories. A lot of people do, right? So it's more of a, Rainier is what got me to really, really start thinking about, I need to stay in better shape so I can do this more. And so the luck of the draw, a buddy of mine said, hey, we got an opening to go to Rainier. Somebody had to back out. Are you interested? And I'm like, I'm interested. I just don't know if I can do it. And he's like, when are you going? Oh, we're going in June. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, that's a year. I've got a year to get ready to do this. So I joined the gym. And at that time, it was the Atkins diet, which was the big diet of the time, which actually worked amazing for me. And I would fill my backpack up. I went to the gym. I got on the treadmill, started slowly lifting the grate on it, and it looked like a fool because I'm in my hiking boots on a treadmill with a huge backpack on. But you know what? The weight started to come off, and that was the motivation I needed. And I've still got the wicked sweet tooth, so it's just one of those things you gotta have under control. But man, let me tell you, you just need that one motivation, and it can kind of change your life. And that's kind of what it did for me. It was, something I look back on. I don't want to ever be back at that point again where, if you think about it, I lost 60, 70 pounds to go to Rainier in a year. That's how many backpacks worth of gear that I lost. So, it was a game changer for sure. And that's when I really started getting back into this whole, I like to call it peak bagging thing, is, collecting my peak and collecting my mountains and stuff, So.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I think you're exactly right. A lot of people kind of push off, because they don't have a clear-cut goal set in front of them. And so they kind of put off, well, I can always lose the weight. I can always quit that. I can always get better at this, whatever it might be. But as soon as you publish, as soon as you speak out into the world that you're going to do something, whether it's run a marathon or, hike the John Muir Trail or climb Rainier, and you've got this goal in front of you, there are a certain set of things that you need to do to get yourself ready for that. And so I think that's an excellent strategy to kind of, set that tangible goal in a reasonable distance away from you, so it allows you to prepare yourself and get ready to do it and get yourself into that position.
Yeah, and I told everybody what my goal was, so they were my motivators too.
That's right.
It's like, I'm gonna go climb Rainier next year, and they're like, no, you're not. There's no way you're gonna do that. It's not gonna happen. And it's because the year before that I was that size, and I failed to get to the top of Mount Washington in New Hampshire because of my weight. I just couldn't do it. So they're like, "Oh, you didn't get Washington. You're not going to do Rainier." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to prove you wrong." And sure as hell I did.
Yep. That is a crucial point right there you just made, because you can whisper it to yourself all you want, and that is not a whole lot of pressure. But as soon as you tell other people, I'm going to do this, then you have spoken it into existence. You have put the pressure on yourself, and other people's eyes are now on you. So that's an excellent strategy.
No, that's exactly what I did. Yeah.
All right. Hey, I'm gonna try and pin you down here with an impromptu top 5 list. So
Okay.
you have stood astride atop a number of peaks in your life. What are the top 5 peaks, top 5 experiences that you've had? If you could name those 5 peaks, top 5 peaks that you've been on.
Rainier for sure. I would say number 1, just because it was literally the hardest thing I'd ever done, and in getting to that point, it had the most memories to it.
How long was that hike?
Distance wise,
Yes.
I believe it's only around 8 or 10 miles to the summit, but it's 8,000 feet, and it's not grueling by any means, but I'm not used to elevations, so I'm over 10,000 feet, 14,000 feet. I'm not used to the thin air, so it was tough. It was something that was completely out of any dream that I ever had, and I probably never would have done it if I wasn't invited. So that really spurred it on. So it really has to be the number 1 on my list so far.
So 8 or 10 miles, but it was 8,000 feet of elevation gain.
It's something like that. I'm just going off of memory. I think it's like 4,000 feet from the start up to Camp Muir, and then another 4,000 at the top.
That is brutal. That is brutal. Yeah. And you're right that breathing at 14,000 feet is no joke.
It is no joke for an East Coaster. Yeah, it's no joke. No joke at all. Probably my second, the second's probably right up there, is actually Telescope Peak, which is in Death Valley, going from the lowest point in the Continental 48 in the same day to the highest point in Death Valley, which is over 11,000 feet. So basically, it's a pretty good day.
Heck yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I mean, that's that was a lot of fun. I mean, you're going from really nice and temperate and warm weather down below, and we actually hit snow when we got to the top at 11,000 feet. So that was really cool.
Nice.
And then the Adirondack, probably Haystack Mountain in Adirondacks is my favorite up here by far. It's very unique. It's extremely rocky. It's something like you would see in Colorado, kind of mountain. Not an easy day. It's a 16-mile round trip day. So it's a brutal day. Mount Katahdin in Maine, which is up in Baxter State Park. And
one more,
huh?
Yep.
I should have been prepared for this question, as a lot of people ask me this question, but
it's a natural progression: Rainier, Telescope, Haystack, Katahdin, and
man. I'm probably gonna jump back over into Utah to Kings Peak. Just because that was a 3-day outing, outstanding sunsets, cool people. We talked to so many people on this mountain, and it's not, and for me, it's not like it's my favorite mountain is like a favorite experience kind of thing, because most of what makes the mountain is the trip getting to it. And that was just a fantastic trip. You know, we woke up, there was major forest fires in the area when we were over in Kings Peak, and we woke up with our tent was just covered in ash, but the fire was over 100 miles away, so the ash is just carrying, and you couldn't see anything. And I'm thinking to myself, you're just not going to see anything this whole entire trip. We just, you know, we flew out here, we're going to climb this mountain, it's just going to be sucked in by smoke, we're not going to be able to breathe. And the next day we got up to climb the mountain, we had this beautiful red sunrise, and the skies were absolutely crystal clear. So something was in our favor. And so yeah, I would say that that's right there in the top 5 as well, just because of the experience of that.
Nice. I thought you were going to tell me that the 5th one was going to be the Nevada peak after the flat tire.
That one, no. No. Actually, it was kind of cool. As we were on the summit of we were on the high point of New Mexico, and we ran into somebody that used to live in Lake Placid, which is one town over from where I live now. So that was very odd. And then we actually got to the summit. That was actually pretty cool too, because we got to the summit. There was a bighorn sheep actually on the summit when we got there, and it never actually strayed from the summit much when we were the whole time we were there. So we were sharing the summit with a sheep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hedgehog and a sheep.
Yep. Not a that sounds like a kid's book.
Hey, Hedgehog, you know where we are?
Break number 2.
No, we're at that point in the episode where I ask you for your pro tip insight of the week. What do you have for
right.
our listeners that's going to make their next outdoor experience even better?
All right. Basically, I'm going to say the most important thing that you can do is proper planning. Is 90% of the things that where everything goes wrong or you miss something is because you haven't done the proper planning. Well, I love flying by the seat of my pants sometimes on these trips and just winging it, and I always do my research on my trips. The day-to-day thing might be winging it, where I'm going to camp at night and stuff, but you know, as far as what's there and what I want to see and the gear I need to have and what's the weather going to be, all those things, your proper planning up to your trip is probably the most important thing that you can do. Getting yourself ready for not really the inevitable, but like the unexpected. You know, and you're never going to know it all. I mean, it's just one of those things. You learn something new almost every time. But if you get the proper planning from stage 1, you're going to have a great trip for sure. You know, and double check your gear. Don't think you packed it, because chances are you might not have. You know, a few times I've driven, you know, an hour or 2 down the road, go get out my snowshoes, and they're still sitting in the garage. You learn. Never do that again. You know,
Yep.
So that's my tip is do 100% proper planning before you go, and you know, and basically in that planning, you know, tell somebody where you're going. Let them know what time you're going to be back, who you're with, where you're starting. Give them a map as to what destination you're going to and the planned route. You know, just imagine just think of it as if you were somebody that was in search and rescue. Why wouldn't you want to get rescued? You know, why would you get rescued? Because, oh, I forgot my water. I didn't bring something to start a fire if something happened. You know, all these little things, just proper planning, 100%.
Yeah, a couple things on that. I will wholeheartedly agree with you. First thing is, I think that planning is half the fun. You know, doing your research and laying out what you're going to bring and what the route's going to be and all that fun stuff. That's really half of the enjoyment that I get into my trips. And the second part is, you know, you said tell somebody, you know, where you're going to go. You know, I've tried telling my wife, I've tried telling Mrs. Doc where I'm going to go, and she doesn't want to know. She'll say, hey, it's okay. I don't need to know. It's a surprise. You know, you get lost. I think I'm starting to think she doesn't want to have to tell searchers where I'm going to be. So
You must have good life insurance or something.
yeah, it must.
It's amazing.
Very good.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That's it. Our bonus episode for season 2 is in the books. Hope our listeners enjoyed our time with Hedgehog. I want to thank him for joining us this week. Hedgehog, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find updates on your latest adventures?
At this point, I'm pretty much solely on Instagram. So you can always find me there. I'm Bearded Bushwhacker there. That's just a random name that came up, not a trail name, but that's what I gave myself.
Bearded Bushwhacker. Very good.
Yeah.
Remember to check out the pod on social media as well. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you have comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at johnfreakinmuir@gmail.com. Hedgehog, also looking to you to share a recommendation for a book, a movie, documentary, website, some kind of adventure media to keep our listeners connected to the trail or to the outside adventure. What do you have for us for an adventure media recommendation?
The one movie I saw recently was Free Solo. I'm sure everybody's has seen that, and that's just, I've seen it 3 times now. I can't get enough of it. It's got humor. It's got like on the edge. You know nothing's gonna happen, but you're on the edge of your seat anyways. And it's just, this guy is freaking amazing. Exactly. It's like, that's my favorite. Favorite one as far as adventure stuff. One thing I do like to go and see every year is sorry, I just went blank. I apologize. I just totally went blank on it. It was gonna be a smart ass one too.
Oh man, we missed out on a smart ass one.
Oh man, Vertical Limit. That's the one.
Vertical Limit. Is that Sylvester Stallone?
No, that's not Sylvester Stallone. It's a different one. But yeah, that's like, all those movies just crack me up. If you want a good time and you want to feel like you just want to laugh, those are the movies. Those are great. Those are good. Just sit down and chill and drink a beer kind of movies. So I can't never highly recommend those enough, But
Nice.
yeah, it's just crazy.
Very good.
Ed Visters is in it, so it must not be that bad.
Okay, nice. If you liked Hope Solo, have you ever seen Don Wall?
I have it saved. I haven't watched it yet. But
did I say Hope Solo? Free Solo. Hope Solo is a goalie for the women's national team. Never mind.
Wow, where's your mind?
I have no idea. Yeah, Free Solo is the movie you recommended, not Hope Solo.
Yeah.
And there's another climbing movie called The Don Wall, which is about Tommy Caldwell and his partner trying to go up the Don Wall, a route that had never been climbed before. Really, really good.
Yep, that's on my short list too. Yeah, nice. I don't watch a lot of movies. I spend my time in the woods, but yeah.
Time well spent. Very good.
Yeah. Sure.
Hey, and before we wrap things up, I'm starting a new segment called "What Have I Not Asked You That You're Dying to Tell Me About?" Did we miss anything?
Oh, I'm the guinea pig on this one, huh?
Yeah.
No, I think we covered quite a bit of stuff. I'm sure I'll think of something later, but no, it's I think we've hit quite a bit of it.
Okay.
And hopefully I'll make it out your way sooner than later.
All right, very good. Well, let me know when you're going to do Whitney. Send me a message. Yeah. Maybe I'll meet you out there.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah,
that'd be a lot of fun. That's gonna be we're gonna spend some time back there and camp on one of the lakes and just make a good few days of it for sure.
You will not be disappointed.
I'll bring the beer.
Okay, deal.
IPAs,
not stouts.
Yep.
Okay, that's a wrap from the John Freakin' Muir studio. Any shout outs to friends and family?
Shout out to all my friends and family. I got a lot of hiking partners out there that go out with me all the time, and I can't thank them enough for keeping me company. I can't say thank you enough to my wife for Corinne for putting up with a lot of the peaks that I do and all the time I spend in the woods. And I got a buddy Jimbo. He's done over 600 peaks with me, so he's my frequent flyer and still good friends somehow. I haven't figured it out. I think it's because he was 29 years in corrections and he's a bigger wise ass than anybody I've ever met. So, but yeah, big shout out to all the hiking partners I've had over the years, and big thank you for them.
Nice. So you have to get Jimbo and the boys to listen to the podcast then.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give him his hearing aid.
Very good. Thank you for tuning in. And always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if you're driving on a donut tire for 300 miles. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.